Lena had never meant to step through the rift. She had only been walking through the dry hills outside her grandmother's old cabin in Nevada, the wind tugging at her long silver hair, the locket around her neck warm against her skin. It had been quiet, too quiet, and then the air shimmered like heat over asphalt. One moment she was alone under a pale blue sky. The next she was standing on black stone beneath twin suns that burned violet and gold. She blinked, disoriented. The ground beneath her boots felt wrong, too smooth, too cold. Around her rose jagged spires of obsidian and steel, humming with energy. Strange symbols pulsed along the walls in colors she had no name for. Her breath caught in her throat. This was not Earth. Before she could turn or run, armored figures emerged from the shadows. They stood taller than any human, their skin a deep cobalt blue, eyes glowing like embers. Their armor clinked with every step, and they carried weapons that crackled with violet lightning. They spoke in guttural tones, words that scraped against her ears like stone on metal. She raised her hands slowly, heart hammering. One of them pointed at her locket. It glowed faintly now, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. The tallest alien grunted and gestured sharply. Two others seized her arms. She struggled, but their grip was iron. From her satchel, a small rustle came, a soft chirp, then a low hiss. Kale poked his head out, wings flared, eyes blazing gold. The aliens froze. Kale was no bigger than a house cat, covered in iridescent scales that shifted from green to deep blue in the strange light. His tail curled protectively around Lena's wrist, and his tiny claws dug into the fabric of her bag. He let out a warning growl, smoke curling from his nostrils, but the aliens did not attack. Instead, they exchanged glances, then bowed their heads slightly. The leader barked an order, and they began to march her forward, deeper into the city of spires. They passed through towering gates carved with scenes of battle, warriors clashing, stars exploding, creatures with too many eyes. The air smelled of ozone and blood. Crowds gathered along the walkways, watching her with wide, curious eyes. Some hissed. Others whispered. None looked friendly. At last, they reached a massive circular structure that loomed over everything else. Its walls were stained dark, and the ground around it was littered with broken weapons and scorched earth. Above the entrance, a symbol burned in the air, a circle split by a blade, the blood arena. Lena's stomach dropped. She had read myths, old stories about places where warriors fought to the death for glory or survival. But this was real. And they were taking her inside. She tried to speak. "I'm not a fighter. I didn't mean to come here." Her words meant nothing to them. They shoved her through the gates. Inside, the arena stretched wider than a football field, its floor made of cracked black stone. Thousands of aliens filled the stands, their voices a roaring wave of noise. Spotlights swept the space, catching glints of armor, fangs, and claws. In the center of the arena stood a figure, tall, scarred, with 4 arms and a face like carved stone. He held twin axes that dripped with something dark. The guards pushed Lena to the edge of the fighting pit. One of them shoved a short blade into her hand. It felt foreign, heavy. She had never held a real weapon before. A voice boomed from above, echoing through the chamber in a language she didn't understand. But somehow, she knew what it meant. Challenger enters. Victory or death. The crowd roared. Kyle scrambled onto her shoulder, his tiny body tense. "Stay close," she whispered, though she knew he could hear her thoughts. He had always been able to. Ever since she found him as a hatchling in the woods behind her home, he had spoken to her, not with words but with feelings, images, warmth in her mind. The 4-armed warrior stepped forward. His eyes locked onto hers. There was no mercy there, only hunger. The gong sounded, he charged. Lena stumbled back, tripping over her own feet. The blade in her hand shook. She wasn't fast enough. He was on her in seconds, one axe swinging for her head, the other for her legs. But Kale leapt. He shot through the air like a green comet, slamming into the warrior's face. The alien roared, swatting at him, but Kale darted away, spitting a thin stream of fire that singed the warrior's brow. It wasn't enough to hurt him, but it startled him. That was all Lena needed. She rolled to the side, heart pounding. The warrior turned, snarling, and lunged again. This time Lena didn't try to block. She dropped to her knees and held up her hands. "Wait," she said, loud enough for the whole arena to hear. "I don't want to fight you." Silence fell. The warrior paused, confused. Around them the crowd murmured. No one had ever done this before. "In the blood arena you fought or you died. You didn't talk?" Lena stood slowly, dropping the blade. It clattered on the stone. She met the warrior's gaze, not with fear, but with something softer. Pity. "You're tired," she said. "You fought too many battles. You don't want to kill me. You just want it to stop." The warrior's shoulders slumped slightly. His grip on his axes loosened. A flicker of pain crossed his face, real pain, not just rage. Kale landed gently on her shoulder again, his wings folding. He let out a soft coo, almost like a purr. From the stands, someone shouted in outrage. Others hissed. But many fell quiet, watching. The warrior lowered his weapons completely. He stepped back, then knelt. Not in surrender, but in respect. A gasp rippled through the crowd. High above, a horn blared. Not the death knell, but the sound of victory. Lena had won, not by killing, not by strength, but by seeing the person beneath the armor. The gates opened again. This time not guards, but robed figures approached. They wore masks of polished bone and carried staffs topped with glowing crystals. One of them bowed deeply. "You are Starborn," the figure said, voice echoing strangely as if speaking through water. "The old song said you would return when the dragons woke." Lena shook her head. "I'm just Lena. I live in Nevada. I have a cat named Miso." But the figure only smiled beneath the mask. "Names change. Truth remains." They led her away from the pit, through winding tunnels beneath the arena. Kyle stayed close, his warmth a comfort against the cold stone. Lena's mind raced. She wanted to go home, but something told her that home was no longer just a cabin in the desert. As they walked, the locket around her neck grew warmer. It pulsed once, twice, then went still. In the distance, deep beneath the planet's crust, something ancient stirred, and it knew she was here. The crowd outside the arena did not cheer. They watched in stunned silence as the small human woman with silver hair and a dragon on her shoulder disappeared into the shadows. Some whispered that the blood arena had been defiled. Others said a new age had begun. One thing was certain. No one had ever left the arena alive without spilling blood. Until now. Lena didn't know it yet. But her mistake, stepping through the rift, had changed everything. The galaxy had forgotten humanity, but it would remember soon, and it would remember her. For now, she followed the robed figures, her boots clicking softly on the stone. Kel nuzzled her cheek, sending a wave of calm through her mind. She took a deep breath. She was lost. She was scared. But she was not alone. And in a place built for death, she had chosen life. That, more than any blade or fire, made her dangerous. Lena woke in a room made of smooth black stone. Soft light came from glowing veins in the walls, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. She sat up quickly, her hand flying to her neck. The locket was still there, cool now. Kale lay curled on her chest, his tiny body rising and falling with each breath. He opened one golden eye, blinked at her, then stretched his wings with a soft yawn. She was not in the arena anymore. The door slid open without sound. A tall figure stood there, broad-shouldered, scarred, with skin the color of storm clouds. His eyes were dark but not cruel. He wore simple armor, no weapons. Behind him the hallway stretched into shadow. "You are awake," he said. His voice was deep, rough like gravel, but calm. Lena nodded, pulling Kale closer. "Where am I? The honor quarters," he said. "Guests of the arena stay here after victory." "I didn't fight," she said. "I just talked." He stepped inside and sat on a low stone bench across from her. "That is why they are afraid of you." She frowned. "Afraid? You showed mercy in a place built on blood. That is more dangerous than any weapon." He introduced himself as Torvak, once a warlord of the Krell Dominion, now exiled. He had refused an order to burn a village of non-combatants. For that he lost his rank, his ship, his name. Now he fought in the blood arena to survive, not for glory. "They made me fight you," Lena said. Torvak shook his head. "No, the Syndicate chose you. They saw your locket. They heard the whispers. They think you are Starborn." "What is Starborn?" He leaned forward. "Old stories. From before the Great Silence, humans were said to walk among stars not as conquerors but as healers. They could speak to beasts, calm storms, mend broken minds. They vanished centuries ago. Some say they died. Others say they hid." Kale chirped and fluttered onto Torvak's knee. The big alien did not flinch. Instead, he gently stroked Kale's head with one thick finger. Kale purred. "You trust him," Torvak said. "Surprised he trusts you," Lena replied. That night, they walked through the undercity of Zyros Prime. Towers of metal and glass rose above them, lit by floating orbs of blue fire. Below, narrow streets twisted like roots filled with merchants, outcasts, and warriors nursing wounds. The air smelled of spice, oil, and something sharp like burnt copper. People stared at Lena. Some bowed. Others spat. A few reached out as if to touch her hair, then pulled back in fear. "They think you are a ghost," Torvak said, "or a god." "I'm just a woman who got lost," she said. But Kyle was changing. His scales shimmered more brightly now. At night, faint runes glowed along his spine, symbols that looked like old Earth script but twisted, alien. When Lena touched them, images flashed in her mind. Starships shaped like birds, cities floating in clouds, humans standing beside dragons as tall as mountains. She told Torvak what she saw. He grew very still. "The Voidlings," he whispered. "My people have legends, creatures of fire and thought, bound to humans by blood and will. They say the Voidlings died when humanity fell." Kale looked up at her, eyes full of sorrow. "He's not dead," Lena said softly. "He's waiting." Days passed. Lena learned the rules of this world. The Syndicate ruled everything, the arenas, the trade routes, the laws. They were not one species, but a council of the strongest, each representing a different race. Their word was final, and they wanted Lena gone, but the people were restless. Her act in the arena had planted a seed. Whispers spread. What if mercy was stronger than fear? What if victory did not need death? Then came the challenge. It arrived at dawn, carried by a silent messenger. A black scroll sealed with red wax. Torvak broke the seal and read it aloud. "By ancient law, any warrior may challenge a victor within 7 days. If the victor wins, they gain the challenger's oath. If they lose, they die." Lena's hands trembled. "Who challenged me?" Torvak met her eyes. "Me," she stared at him. "Why?" "Because if I do not, the Syndicate will send someone who will kill you. And I believe you are more than a rumor. I believe you are the key to something my people lost long ago. Honor." She wanted to refuse. But Kale nudged her hand, sending a wave of calm through her mind. He showed her a vision, Torvak standing alone in a field of ash holding a broken sword. He had no one, no home. "No hope," she agreed. The second duel was held at dusk. The arena was packed. This time the crowd was divided. Some shouted for blood. Others chanted her name, Lena Starborn, Lena Starborn. She wore no armor. Only her boots, her trousers, and the locket. Kale stayed in her satchel, watching with bright eyes. Torvak entered from the opposite side. He carried a single blade, long and curved, its edge dull with age. He did not wear his full armor, only a leather vest and bracers. He looked tired but ready. The gong sounded. They did not charge. They walked toward each other slowly, like old friends meeting after years apart. "You do not have to do this," Lena said. "I do," Torvak replied. "For my people." "For me." He swung first, not to kill but to test. She dodged, rolled, came up behind him. She had no weapon, but she was fast. She grabbed his wrist, twisted. The blade clattered to the ground. The crowd gasped. Torvak turned, surprised. "You trained?" "I watched birds," she said. "They dodge hawks by feeling the wind." He smiled faintly. "Clever." He lunged again, faster this time. She ducked, swept his legs. He fell hard but rolled to his feet in one motion. He was strong, but he held back. She could feel it in every move. Kale fluttered out of her bag and landed on the edge of the pit. He let out a low hum, and the air around Lena seemed to shimmer. Torvak froze. "You can resonate what the bond between you and him. It's real." She didn't understand the word, but she knew what he meant. She and Kale were not just friends. They were one soul in two bodies. She stepped forward and placed her hand on Torvak's chest over his heart. He flinched but did not strike. "I see you," she said. "I see the man who saved children. The man who wept when his ship burned. You are not a monster. You never were." Tears filled his eyes. He dropped to one knee. The horn sounded victory. Silence fell over the arena. Then slowly, one by one, the crowd rose to their feet, not cheering, bowing. Torvak stayed on his knee. "By the law of the blood arena, I offer you my oath, my blade, my life, and my hand in marriage." Lena blinked. "Marriage. It is tradition," he said, voice low. "When a warrior is bested by mercy, they pledge themselves to their victor, not as a slave, but as a partner, to walk the same path." She looked at Kyle. He tilted his head. then sent her a feeling. Not words, but warmth, trust, a sense of rightness. She took Torvak's hand and pulled him up. I don't want a servant. I want a friend, he nodded. Then I will be your friend. That night they stood on a high balcony overlooking the city. Stars burned in the violet sky. Kyle slept in Lena's lap, curled like a cat. Torvak told her more. About the Great Silence, the time when all records of humans vanished from the galactic archives. About the ruins found on dead worlds covered in human writing. About the strange energy signatures that matched no known species, but felt like the hum of her locket. The Syndicate fears you, he said, because if humans were real, and if they could do what the legends say, then the Syndicate's power is a lie. Strength is not the only way to rule. Lena touched her locket. It pulsed once softly. Why me, she asked. Why now? Torvak looked at her, his eyes full of something like wonder. Maybe because the universe needed someone kind. Kyle stirred, then lifted his head. His scales glowed brighter than ever. The runes on his back flared, and this time Lena understood them. They spelled one word: remember. And deep beneath the city, something answered. A hum. A vibration. A memory waking up. Lena knew then that this was not over. The arena was just the beginning. Somewhere in this world or beyond was the truth about humanity. And she, with her dragon and her scarred alien friend, would find it. She stood, Kale on her shoulder, Torvak at her side. The stars watched, and for the first time in centuries they did not feel so alone. Lena did not sleep that night. The locket hummed against her skin like a second heartbeat, and Kale paced the stone floor of their room, his tiny claws clicking softly. His scales shimmered with a light that had not been there before, deep blues and silvers like moonlight on water. Every few minutes he would stop, tilt his head and let out a low sound that was not a growl, not a chirp, but something older. Torvak sat by the window, sharpening his blade with slow, steady strokes. He did not speak, but his presence was calm like a mountain in a storm. They know, he said finally without looking up. Who? Lena asked. The Syndicate. They saw what happened in the arena. They saw me kneel. They saw the crowd bow. That is worse than defeat to them. It is rebellion. Kale fluttered onto Lena's shoulder and pressed his warm body against her neck. An image flashed in her mind. A dark chamber beneath the city, walls lined with glass tubes. Inside each tube floated a human shape, pale and still, wires running from their temples to machines that pulsed with red light. Lena gasped. They have people down there. Torvak's hand stilled. What people? Humans, or something like us? He stood quickly. That is not possible. Humans are gone, erased, but Kale showed her more. The tubes were not just holding bodies, they were feeding them, drawing something out. Energy, memory, will. And at the center of the chamber stood a massive machine, shaped like a twisted tree, its branches ending in glowing eyes. The resonance engine. The blood arena was built on top of it, Lena whispered. They are using it to control warriors, to make them obey. Torvak's face darkened. I have seen fighters change after their third match. Their eyes go empty. They stop speaking. They only kill. We thought it was fear, but it was this. Kyle leapt down and began scratching at the floor near the wall. Stone chips flew. Lena knelt beside him. Beneath the smooth surface was something rougher. Metal, covered in symbols that matched the ones on Kale's back. She pressed her palm to it. The locket flared hot. A section of the wall slid open, revealing a narrow tunnel that sloped downward. Cold air rushed up, smelling of dust and old metal. Torvak grabbed his blade. This is a trap. Or a key, Lena said. They entered the tunnel, Kyle leading the way, his light guiding them through the dark. The passage twisted like a root, deeper and deeper until the walls changed from stone to smooth alloy. Strange writing covered every surface. English, but warped, as if written by someone who remembered the shapes but not the meaning. Lena traced the letters with her fingers. This is ours, human. At the end of the tunnel was a door, round sealed with a handprint glowing faintly in the center. Lena placed her hand on it. The locket pulsed. The door hissed open. Inside was a vault, not filled with gold or weapons, but with knowledge. Walls of crystal panels lit up as they entered, showing faces, voices, star maps. A woman with kind eyes spoke in calm tones about peace between species. A man in a simple uniform showed how to heal a wounded alien using sound and touch. Children played with small dragons in a garden under twin suns. "This is a human archive," Torvak said, awe in his voice. "Hidden here all this time." Kale flew to a central console and landed on a raised platform. The moment his claws touched it, the room filled with light. A hologram appeared. A tall woman in a silver robe, her hair white, her eyes the same gold as Kale's. "I am Alara Voss," the woman said. "Last speaker of the human conquered. If you see this, the silence has fallen. The syndicate has risen, and you, child of Earth, must awaken what we buried." The hologram turned to Lena. "You carry the locket of echoes. It chose you. And Kale, he is not just a pet. He is a voidling, one of the last. We made them to guard our legacy, to bond with those who could resonate. You are his match, and he is yours." Kyle let out a soft cry and nuzzled Lena's hand. The hologram continued. "Beneath this vault lies the heart core, a source of pure resonance energy. The syndicate found it. They twisted it. They built the blood arena to harvest rage, pain, and willpower from fighters, feeding it into the engine to create soldiers without fear, without choice. But the core remembers, and it calls to you." Suddenly alarms blared. Red lights flashed. The walls trembled. "They found us," Torvak said, pulling Lena back. Heavy footsteps echoed in the tunnel. Armored enforcers poured into the vault, weapons raised. Their eyes were blank, their movements too smooth, too perfect. Kale hissed and spat fire, but the flames bounced off their armor. Lena grabbed Torvak's arm. "We have to go," but the door sealed behind them. They were trapped. Then Kale did something strange. He closed his eyes, spread his wings wide, and let out a sound that was not sound at all. A vibration that shook the air, the floor, their bones. The enforcers staggered. One dropped his weapon, clutching his head. Another fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "What is he doing?" Torvak shouted over the noise. "He's giving them back their memories," Lena realized. The Voidling's resonance was not just for humans. It reached into the minds of the controlled warriors, breaking the engine's hold. One by one they blinked, confused, scared free. But more enforcers came, and behind them walked a figure in black robes, face hidden, voice cold as ice. "The Starborn," the figure said. "We thought you were myth." "But myths bleed just the same." Lena stepped forward. "Why are you doing this?" "Because strength is order," the robed figure replied. "Mercy is weakness. Your kind taught the galaxy to dream. We taught it to obey, and obedience wins wars," Kale growled, his body beginning to change. His wings stretched wider. His scales hardened. He was growing, not just in size, but in presence. Light poured from him, filling the vault. The robed figure raised a hand. "Seize them." But the freed enforcers turned on their masters. Chaos erupted. Torvak grabbed Lena's hand. Now they ran, Kyle flying above them, lighting their path. Behind them, the vault collapsed in a shower of sparks and stone. They emerged in the undercity, gasping for air. Rain began to fall, thick warm drops that smelled of metal and ash. "We cannot stay here," Torvak said. "They will hunt us everywhere." Lena looked at Kale. He was larger now, nearly the size of a wolf, his eyes burning with ancient fire. He landed on her shoulder, but his weight was heavier, his breath warmer. "He is changing because of me," she said. "Because of what you are," Torvak corrected. "You are not just a lost woman, Lena. You are a key. And the lock is breaking." They moved through the alleys, hiding in shadows, helped by those who had seen her in the arena. A vendor gave them cloaks. A former fighter offered them a hidden room beneath a market stall. No one asked for payment. They only said, "Starborn, go in peace." That night, Kyle showed Lena the final truth. He pressed his forehead to hers, and she saw it all. Earth had not been destroyed. Humanity had chosen to vanish. They discovered resonance, the ability to connect with all living minds, and realized it could be used for great good or terrible evil. When the first warlords tried to weaponize it, the Concord scattered. They sent voidlings like Kale into hiding, sealed their knowledge in vaults across the galaxy, and erased their own history to protect it. The Syndicate found one vault. They twisted its power, and now they wanted more. "They think I can control the engine," Lena said aloud. "You can," Torvak replied, "but not the way they want. You can heal it, free it." Kale curled around her like a living blanket, his warmth pushing back the cold fear in her chest. She knew what she had to do. Not run, not hide. Return to the blood arena, not as a fighter, but as a liberator. Torvak nodded when she told him, "Then I walk with you." "And I fly with you," Kale seemed to say, his mind brushing hers like a soft wind. Outside, the rain stopped. The twin suns rose over Zyros Prime, casting long shadows. Somewhere deep below, the resonance engine pulsed, hungry and broken, and above it, a small human woman with a dragon and a scarred alien warrior prepared to face it, not with swords, but with truth. The city held its breath. The war for memory had begun. The vault beneath the blood arena was not just a hiding place. It was a tomb and a cradle. Lena felt it the moment they stepped back inside, cloaked in stolen shadows and silence. The air was thick with old pain, with echoes of screams that never faded. Kale walked beside her now, no longer small enough to ride on her shoulder. His wings brushed the walls, his claws clicking on metal that had not seen light in centuries. Torvak followed, blade ready, eyes scanning every corner. They had returned not to hide but to awaken. The central chamber glowed with a soft red pulse, the heart core, buried deep in the planet's crust. Wires snaked from it into the resonance engine above, a monstrous tangle of metal and light that hummed with stolen will. Glass tubes lined the walls, each holding a human form, pale and still. Their chests rose and fell, but their eyes were empty. "These are not just bodies," Lena whispered. "They are anchors. The engine uses them to pull resonance from living minds." Kyle stepped forward and placed a claw on the nearest tube. The figure inside stirred. A flicker of awareness crossed their face. "He is trying to reach them," Torvak said. Lena approached the heart core. It looked like a giant crystal, cracked in places, bleeding red light. She reached out, locket burning against her skin. The moment her fingers touched the surface, memories flooded her, not hers but humanity's. She saw Earth's last council, men and women in simple clothes, faces lined with sorrow. They stood in a garden under a dying sun. "We cannot let them turn our gift into a weapon," one said. "So we will become ghosts." They activated the Great Scatter, ships leaping into hidden dimensions, voidlings sent to sleep, knowledge locked away. The last act was sealing the heart cores, burying them where no warlord could find them. But the Syndicate had dug too deep. "They found this one," Lena said, pulling her hand back. "And they broke it." Kale let out a low moan. His scales began to glow brighter, shifting from blue to gold. He was growing again. His body stretched, his wings broadened, his eyes deepened with age and power. He was no longer a pet. He was a guardian waking from a long dream. Torvak watched in awe. "He is becoming what he was meant to be." Lena turned to him. "I have to go into the engine, not to destroy it, to heal it." "You will be torn apart," Torvak said. "The Syndicate has twisted its frequency. It feeds on fear now, not harmony." "I know," she said. "But if I can resonate with it even for a moment, I can show it what it was meant to be." Kale nudged her gently, then bowed his head. A saddle formed from his scales, smooth, warm, shaped just for her. She climbed onto his back. Torvak gripped her hand. "I will hold the way. Go." Kyle rose into the air, wings beating slowly, and flew up through the hidden shaft that led to the engine's chamber. The room above was vast, filled with grinding gears and pulsing veins of light. At its center floated the engine, a sphere of black metal wrapped in chains of energy, spinning slowly, pulling in streams of red mist from the arena above. That mist was made of pain, of rage, of broken wills. Kale landed on a platform near the core. Lena slid off and walked forward, locket blazing. The engine sensed her. It slowed, then it turned toward her like a beast smelling prey. She did not run. She opened her mind and she sang. Not with her voice, but with her soul. She sent out a wave of memory, of Earth's forests, of children laughing, of hands joined in peace, of dragons and humans walking side by side under starlight. She showed the engine what resonance truly was, not control, but connection. The red mist faltered. For a moment, the light turned gold. Then the Syndicate struck. Alarms blared. Panels slid open in the walls and enforcers poured in. Dozens of them, eyes blank, weapons charged. But these were not just warriors. These were enhanced. Their bodies pulsed with dark energy, their movements too fast, too sharp. Kyle roared, a sound that shook the chamber, and fire erupted from his maw, not red, but white-hot. It melted armor, shattered weapons, but did not burn flesh. He was protecting, not killing, Lena kept singing, even as the enforcers closed in. Then the High Matriarch appeared. She stepped from a shadowed archway, tall and regal, her face smooth, ageless, eyes like frozen stars. She wore a crown of black crystal that pulsed with the same rhythm as the engine. "So," she said, voice cold and clear, "the ghost of humanity returns." "You are hurting them," Lena said, nodding to the enforcers. "They are not yours to break." "They are tools," the matriarch replied. "As you will be," she raised her hand. The engine spun faster. Red mist coiled around Lena, trying to pull her in, to drain her will. Kale lunged, but chains of dark energy shot from the walls and wrapped around his limbs, holding him down. He struggled, roaring in pain. Lena fell to her knees, the pressure crushing her mind. But then she remembered the locket. She pressed it to her chest and whispered one word: "Remember." The locket shattered. Light exploded outward. Not red, not gold, but pure white. It filled the chamber, washing over the enforcers, the engine, the matriarch. The enforcers screamed, not in pain, but in release. Their eyes cleared. They dropped their weapons, clutching their heads as memories returned. Some wept, some fell to their knees in thanks. The engine shuddered. Cracks spread across its surface. The red mist turned silver, then clear. The matriarch staggered back, her crown cracking. "No, this power is mine. It was never yours," Lena said, standing. "It was only waiting for someone kind enough to listen." Kyle broke free, his wings spreading wide. He flew to Lena's side, his body now as large as a small shuttle, scales gleaming like polished stars. The matriarch snarled and activated a final failsafe. The floor beneath Lena opened. She fell, but Kale caught her in his claws and soared upward out of the chamber, through the roof of the arena into the open sky. Below, the blood arena trembled. The resonance engine overloaded, not with destruction, but with cleansing light. It did not explode, it dissolved, turning into a shower of glowing petals that drifted down onto the city. The heart core below pulsed once, then went still. Not dead, resting. In the streets, freed warriors looked up in wonder. The Syndicate's control was broken. Torvak emerged from the ruins, blood on his face, but alive. He raised his blade high and the crowd roared, not for blood, but for freedom. Lena landed Kyle gently on a high spire. She was exhausted but calm. "It is not over," Kale seemed to say in her mind. "The other vaults are waking," she nodded. "Then we go to them." Back in the chamber, the High Matriarch knelt among the ruins, her crown in pieces. She touched the last glowing petal. For the first time in centuries, she felt something she had forgotten: regret. Lena looked down at her, not with anger, but with pity. "You do not have to rule through fear," she called softly. "You never did." The matriarch looked up, tears in her eyes, and for the first time she listened, far above. The stars burned brighter. Somewhere in another system, another locket began to hum. Humanity was not returning as conquerors. They were returning as healers. And the galaxy would never be the same. The blood arena stood silent for the first time in centuries. No gong sounded, no crowd roared. The black stone floor, once stained with blood, now shimmered with soft silver light from the fallen petals of the resonance engine. Warriors who had spent their lives fighting for survival now stood together, not as enemies but as witnesses. Lena walked through the center of the pit, Kale beside her, his massive form casting a gentle shadow. His scales no longer glowed with battle fire, but with a calm, steady warmth, like sunlight through leaves. Torvak followed a few steps behind, his blade sheathed, his face unreadable but his eyes full of quiet pride. The High Matriarch waited at the far end of the arena, alone. Her black robes were torn, her crown gone. She did not wear armor. She did not carry a weapon. She simply stood, hands at her sides, head bowed. Lena stopped a few paces away. "You could have run. I have ruled through fear for so long," the matriarch said, voice softer now, "that I forgot what it felt like to be seen." Lena stepped closer. "Then let me see you." She reached out and took the matriarch's hands. They were cold. Lena closed her eyes and opened her mind. Not to take, but to give. She sent no memories of war or judgment. Only peace. Only the feeling of standing under Earth's sky, watching rain fall on quiet fields, of holding a friend's hand when words were not enough, of choosing kindness when anger would have been easier. The matriarch trembled, tears traced lines down her cheeks. I thought strength meant never bending. Strength means knowing when to kneel, Lena said gently. Around them, the crowd watched in silence. Thousands of beings from dozens of worlds, some with scales, some with fur, some with skin like polished stone, stood together, united not by law or fear, but by something new. Hope. Torvak stepped forward. The syndicate is broken, but the galaxy still needs order. Lena looked at him. Not the kind they built. Not with chains and arenas. No, he agreed. With voices, with choice. That evening, beneath the twin suns of Zyros Prime, the first council of free species was formed. Warriors, merchants, healers, and thinkers gathered in the ruins of the arena. The matriarch sat not on a throne but on a simple stone bench, listening more than speaking. Torvak stood as a voice for those who had been silenced, and Lena, small, silver-haired, with a dragon curled protectively at her feet, spoke last. We are not here to replace one ruler with another, she said, her voice clear and calm. We are here to remember that no one owns another's will, not in battle, not in peace, not ever. Kale lifted his head and let out a low, resonant hum. The sound did not frighten. It soothed. It reminded everyone present of something deep inside them, the part that longed for connection, not control. After the meeting, Lena walked with Torvak along the edge of the city, where the towers gave way to open desert. The stars were coming out bright and close. What now, he asked. I don't know, she admitted. But Kale says other vaults are waking, on other worlds. Other humans are hearing the call. He nodded. Then you will go. I have to. He did not ask her to stay. He knew her path was not his to hold. Instead, he knelt, not in submission but in respect. Wherever you go, Starborn, know this. You gave us back our souls. That is a debt no oath can repay. She touched his shoulder. You gave me a friend. That is worth more. Kale nuzzled her hand, then spread his wings. They were vast now, strong enough to carry her across stars. He had grown into what he was always meant to be, a bridge between worlds, a guardian of balance. Before she left, Lena returned to the vault one last time. She placed her broken locket on the heart core. It pulsed once, warmly, then sealed itself shut. The chamber dimmed, waiting for the next time it would be needed. As she climbed onto Kale's back, the people of Zyros Prime gathered to watch. Not as subjects, not as fans, but as equals. Kale leapt into the sky, wings beating steadily, rising above the spires and clouds. Below, Torvak stood tall, watching her go. The matriarch stood beside him, no longer a ruler, but a student. Lena looked down one last time, then turned her eyes to the stars. She did not know where the next vault was. She did not know what dangers waited, but she was not afraid, because she was not alone. And somewhere, in the dark between galaxies, other humans began to answer. A woman on a frozen moon felt her locket grow warm. A boy on a jungle world heard a dragon's song in his dreams. An old man on a drifting ship smiled as his pet lizard's eyes turned gold. Humanity was scattered, but not lost. And now they were waking up. Kyle flew higher, toward the edge of the system, where starlight pooled like water. Lena leaned forward, her hand resting between his horns. Where to next? She whispered. Kale hummed, and in her mind she saw a blue-green world, oceans wide and forests deep. Earth. Not as it was, but as it could be again. She smiled. The journey was just beginning.